Okay, Ciccio, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Extremely happy to be here with you, my friend. When I've started this experience of recording myself, my ambition was always trying to help others, inspiring them to take action. And since last couple of weeks, a lot of people reached out, and I've noticed that they all ask me more or less the same question. So I thought to have joining me one of my friends from Melbourne, Australia, Francesco, which is here with us, just to give him the opportunity to ask me some questions. Hopefully, we could cover a couple of topics that can help people that want to start their own business. What do you think about it, Ciccio?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing, and there's a lot of questions around, and no one ever gives a proper answer. There's always focusing on in general because the other want to sell you something, or
Sure.
the other have different interests. So I know the relationship we have. I know I can ask you things that interest me, and we can have another conversation about it.
And you know, we talked in the past about those kind of topics, but really I wanted to take this opportunity to bring one of our casual, usual conversation as a friend at the service of others that could have the same interest. Just because, as you said, I don't want to sell any course. I don't want to sell anything at all. So my only ambition would be to create a community of people that help each other that can get inspired. So having said that, let's kick in. Let just ask me some questions with the idea that am I getting it right that you are right now in the moment of starting? You want to start something in business?
That's correct. Yes, yes. Yeah.
What do you have in mind? Tell me what's your idea right now?
I've always had this. I've always wanted to build something around the online industry. So I was thinking, I always had in my mind an e-commerce business, but I never had the guts, or I never had the right idea for it. So I've always postponed starting it, and I've always postponed starting about it. And but now it came to a phase in my life where I want to do something, and I just want to start now. I just want to start now.
And Ciccio, I have so many friends that are exactly in the same situation. Exactly right. Like procrastination, I always said it in my mind, I always wanted to do it, but I never had, you mentioned the guts to start doing. And that's the break the inertia and start the momentum. This is really one of the most difficult challenge at the beginning. But let's go with your question.
I just wanted to ask you, in general, why you chose e-commerce, and what was your first approach to it? How did you start getting on it?
Why e-commerce, right? To be honest, the beginning of my journey was more, I need to start a business. It wasn't e-commerce in my mind at the beginning. I had the feeling that I needed to start a sort of business. That need was dictated by the pressure and the uncomfortable situation that I was living in my corporate environment with my 9-to-5 job. That was extremely stressful. My boss at the time was micromanaging me, and that was affecting my well-being. So I knew that I needed to start a business. And at that time, I was actually interested in real estate. I was actually, the origin, I was thinking maybe I should start something in real estate. Though the reason why I ended up after initial study of feasibility of the business, I decided to go with e-commerce is because of the idea of potentially working everywhere in the world. So the idea of being able to move around and coordinate a team of people and operation of the business in general remotely. That was the biggest factor that brought me towards e-commerce, as well as the ability to scale up. I think that e-commerce has got that ease to scale if you're able to prove the original proof of concept. Because if you want to open a bakery, if you want to start a restaurant, those ones are all good business that you could start. But when we talk about scaling up, it would be much harder.
Of course, you have to take it out of all other stuff into consideration, location, building, and more stock, more people. And I think that's probably the main factor about going into e-commerce for everyone. Yeah, I can work from home, I can work from Ireland, I can work from Mars, whatever.
Yeah.
And so when you finally realize that you wanted to focus more on e-commerce, how did you move? Like, did you look for a home? Just normal training online, just Google it, or
yeah,
what was your first step?
Baby steps. I've started with very small baby steps. Yes, I started following, I did a lot of YouTube, a lot of Googling, a lot of reading, of course, I did that. And when you do that, you find a lot of truth, which is a little bit general. And then I think you break in when you start implementing. Only then, when you start actually operating, you actually can differentiate between the general fluff that is online with who is telling the truth, who is not, who is going deep, who is not. I did follow a guy. I bought the book of this quite famous in the Australian e-commerce community person. His name is Neil Waterhouse. I bought an ebook, maybe couple of less than $10. And then I attended a couple of seminars from him, free seminars. And I got the general hang of it. I didn't spend much money. Like the seminars were for free and the book was less than $10. But I was determined to apply what was written in there. And I think that was the main differentiation between the people that were at the seminar, out of which 95% of people just go home and then go on with their lives. And maybe, I think 2-3% of people that actually try. I started selling second-hand stuff that I had lying around the house, implementing those strategy that Neil was talking about in his book on how to optimize the listing and what are the key metrics of conversion for items. I started doing product research and SEO. So I had those goods lying around. How am I gonna call those listing? What's the title that I have to use to be able to convert more? So in my small backyard with just the items that were lying around the house, that's how I raised the first $2,000, and I just was selling like clothes that I wasn't using and IT tech items that I was buying because, but never used it. That's how I started.
So let's say that you auto-financed yourself, selling selling your items you had around the home, and that was your initial, let's say your initial investment, because from what you're saying, you can really start from zero. And
I definitely think that people underestimate the worth of those items that they have lying around the house. And this is something actually I got from Gary Vaynerchuk. He's big Gary V. I don't know if you know about him. He's big YouTuber. Do you know Gary?
no.
Gary V. Gary Vaynerchuk is huge, one of the biggest YouTubers in the world. I don't know how many million of followers. He's got his own marketing agency, advertisement agency, but he talks about doing garage sales during the weekend, buying stuff for a few dollars, and then being able to flip it on eBay.
And so when you started selling, because I know maybe someone will be stuck because they probably think, I don't want to sell online because I might have to start a business, as in like getting an ABN or start a company. Like, do you need all this stuff to actually start, or can you do that afterwards along the way when you actually need to?
That's a good question. Actually, I wanna put one more piece of the puzzle. That's the way I started, and that's how, just selling secondhand stuff, and that's how I raised initial 2,000. And then out of those 2,000, with only $200, I bought my first sample product, just 10 units of they were air aquarium pump with $200, $2 USD each. That's how I got my first sample new product, right? Because then obviously from secondhand stuff, I moved into importing goods from China, which is now the main core of my business. And that's how I typed in your question. To start, you definitely don't need anything. Actually, you shouldn't be even thinking about ABN or tax registration. And this is true in Australia as well as in Italy, right? There is a threshold below which you don't need to report for GST or IVA in Italy. In Australia, the threshold is $75,000. So below $75,000, you don't need to report for GST. You are not obliged. The government is going to start to, the question that they ask you is, are you doing it as a business or are you doing it as a hobby? So if you are doing it as a hobby, and most likely the first 3 to 4 months of operation where you don't even have a proof of concept is going to be a hobby that you have. So for that reason, you don't have to declare any income tax on the profit of the sales. Actually, most likely at the beginning, you're going to have some losses. So absolutely do not get intimidated by the paperwork. It's not required. I have created an ABN and I've operated as a sole trader. So I've created an ABN as a sole trader in Australia 6 months in. So when I was already committed on the business, and I proved the concept, and I've imported my first product. That's when I created the ABN, and I have been operating the business as a sole trader for more than 1 year, almost 1 year and a half. 2 years in, then I founded the company.
Okay, so you were 3 years. So it's not really an important piece of the puzzle to start. And
not to if you want to start, if you want to take my advice of start selling the goods that are lying around, definitely not. If you want to import goods from other countries, you will need is not, by the way, creating an ABN in Australia is extremely easy. It takes less than 24 hours. Opening a partita IVA in Italy is a little bit more headache, but in 1 week you'll do it. So that is just the basic that you need. Other people ask me same in relation to drop shipping, for example, right? In that case, until you are under the threshold, in Australia is 75,000. In Italy, I'm not too sure what's the threshold. I will, by rough memory, I would say 50,000 euro. You don't need to report GST.
And so from what you're saying, because you mentioned dropship, but you were saying now that your business focuses more on importing. So stay a business model.
Yeah. This is also a really good question, right? Some questions that because I've done some videos, but I've never really explained what is it exactly that I'm doing. And the reality is that I've done a lot of different stuff. And now I know the stuff that works and the stuff that, I don't want to say don't work less. Everything could work. Let's start that way. When there is the business model, anything could work. Because it's not about the business model. It's not about the idea. It's never about the idea. It's not about the branding. It's always only exclusively all about the execution. You can choose any kind of business model and make it work. Then, of course, I'm going to tell you that I've done drop shipping for about so I was doing both, right? Private labeling, importing goods from China and putting my own brand, and drop shipping. For 1.5 years, I was running the business, implementing both those two sides of the business model. I had 2 separate stores, 2 separate front-facing stores. And the dropshipping business model, it was profitable, and it was a great learning curve, a great learning opportunity. It was a great experience. After 1.5 years, though, the return in terms of profit, in terms of the return on my time invested, in terms of the money that I was putting in and the money that I was getting out, so the ROI, right? The return on investment, the return on my time, that's the biggest one. There was no comparison. There was absolutely no comparison. Drop shipping was draining a lot of my time and a lot of my focus, of my attention, of my resources, and the net profit, it was 1/10, maybe even less than what I was doing with private labeling. With private labeling. At that point, I decided focus, it's a really important resource. Time is limited. I'm gonna focus all my energy on what is proven to be, to me, the most profitable endeavor.
So Yeah, I know. That's good that you tried both. At least you can see both ways of operating. Yeah? And probably another thing of the problem stops some people is I don't want to go because you have to deal with buyers. I don't know how to choose a supplier. I don't know which one is good. I don't know if I can trust it. Like, what's the way around this one?
Sure. 2 points in regard to what you said. First, you mentioned, first I want to say that dropshipping and private labeling are a little bit like cousin. I wouldn't say brothers, but a lot of commonality, right? That's why I said it was a good learning. The tools that you're going to use to do product research are the same. The tools that you're going to use as a sales channel are the same. eBay, Amazon, Shopify, that doesn't change. So there are commonalities. And I would say, look, the 50%, 60% of the business model, when it comes to the product research and all the marketing and advertising and sales part, it's the same, right? The only difference is the sourcing and the logistic. So the sourcing of the goods that you actually own in one case, in the other you don't, and the logistics. You look after the final shipping to the customer and the importing freight, the container, whatever, in one case, not in the other. You mentioned in your question something that stops a lot of people is blah, blah, blah. And this blah, blah, blah can be thousands of things. I don't know how to deal with the Chinese supplier. I don't know how to open. I never done it. I'm scared. I'm concerned. That stops a lot of people. It's a barrier to entry. What I define a barrier to entry. Of course, right? Importing has got more barrier to entries. The more barrier to entries, the less competition there is. One of the main killers of drop shipping, that's why the profit margin on drop shipping are very low. Anyone can do it. Please understand that. Anyone could just be the middleman between AliExpress or some sort of whatever dodgy suppliers, and there is no added value. So yes, it is something that stops a lot of people, and this is exactly why there is the big upside in terms of profit margin. And it is always like this about everything business related. The harder it is, the less people even start doing it. The harder it is, the less people are successful. So that if you really focus your interest and effort, once you are on the other side of the barrier, then it seems easy, right? Everything that used to seem hard, now it's easy, whatever. All right. How do you deal with identify the right suppliers? It was your question. There's a stereotype. There's a stereotype that when you buy from China, all the Chinese are dodgy. They want to steal your money. That's a huge stereotype. Unfortunately, Chinese people are bringing with them. I have been importing goods from China for now over 4 years, and I can tell you that I've never found a supplier that wanted to scam me, that wanted to be dodgy, that wanted to rip me off. Never, never. Did I find people that were trying to increase their profit margin? Of course. Did I find people that were trying to raise the selling price when you could have got it for low and negotiation was needed? 99% of the time. Did I find suppliers that were sloppy in their job, that were not paying attention to details, and that caused an issue when it was coming to import the good at the customs, or having the right kind of boxes so that the goods wasn't damaged when I was shipping to the all sorts of issues and complications, which although I would have had, even if the supplier was from Thailand or from Italy. So that's the due diligence of the business person to make sure that all the details are there. So, and again, this applies to any kind of business model that you have. That's why what I always try to emphasize when I talk about e-commerce is not a secret formula for e-commerce, or it's easier or anything, or is it different from, even if you have your own pizza shop, right? You need to choose the right suppliers to buy the dough, to buy the right eggs, whatever you need to make the pizza, right? Okay, to be a little bit more technical and close up this part of the question. Alibaba is where you find the suppliers. There are metrics there that are the number of years a supplier has been in business. Definitely more people that had their stores for many years are more reliable. Some people is gold suppliers, which means Alibaba has done some investigation and has given that mark. And one of the biggest shift in the last 3 years, it's the increased functionality of trade assurance. I'm not going to go too deep into trade assurance, but think it as a PayPal for suppliers. Meaning, if they're trying to scam you or something is not quite right, trade assurance, as in Alibaba, steps in to rectify the situation and almost always is in favor of the buyer. On top of that, again, other form of peace of mind that you have, how you call it? Like inspector, good inspector, very common. Now I do it on all the containers that I import. It costs a few $100. You send a guy you send a professional buyer inspector that goes at the factory on your behalf. They check everything before you pay the 70% of the final amount. The room for mistake, if you know what you're doing, is really, really small.
That's great. I didn't know about this, that you can actually hire someone to go and check.
Very common practice. Very common practice. And so, sorry if I got your finger. When all these, obviously the guy that is going to check is Chinese. And the buyer agent that is going to do the inspection is Chinese as well, is in China. Guys, China is such a big multinational economic power. Whoever is thinking that they're just selling dodgy shit, whoever is thinking that the quality is low, doesn't live in 2021 in the real world. The reality is that 95% of all the items that right now are in your household are made in China because they are great at manufacturing, and even big brands, big company have their manufacturer in China. Just to put in context the skepticism around dealing with Chinese. No, it's not true.
And that's true too, because everything you own, basically, it's it's made. It's made there. But one other question that I wanted to ask you before, because I heard you talking about customs. That's probably another big, or one of the biggest points. How important is how do you deal with the custom? Like, what's because it's probably the thing, you know, government of whatever institution it is.
Yeah. When I speak Ciccio, just a technical question. Can you hear me perfectly or I cut in and off? Because when you talk, sometimes you cut in and off. You can hear me okay, good. So the question was, how do you deal with customs, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit scary, right? It's a little bit intimidating because customs is the government. You don't want to fuck up. You don't want to have like some criminal record because you didn't know some rules. Again, with this fear of the unknown, great potential. And I'm going to tell you the truth, right? I'm going to cut the chase and I'm going to tell you that it's so easy that you're not going to even believe it. Extremely easy, extremely easy. People build businesses trying to present an opportunity like a shiny object and then creating fear to sell you something, a service or a good or a course, whatever. Easy. Now, first, I want to make a little bit of a differentiation. Now you are located in Italy, right? And a lot of people that follow me are in Italy, and I have people that follow me and reach me out from South America. Many friends obviously are still in Australia, I'm in Thailand, whatever. Every country has got their custom legislation, right? So it's not exactly the same for everybody. Meaning for some country, it's gonna be a little bit easier. For some other country, it's gonna be a little bit harder. In the specific case of Australia and Italy, in Australia, easy. Australia is very close to China from not only geographic perspective, but from a trade and commerce perspective. They have a lot of bilateral agreement. So importing goods, it's easy. Australia really relies on China. So they made it relatively simple to import the goods. And I think that is true for all Southeast country. Whoever is close to China, I'm sure that even in Thailand will be very easy, the regulation about importing. In Italy, and I've tried to open a branch of my business in Italy to franchise there, so I have a little bit of understanding on that situation. Obviously, it's not that easy because of the bureaucracy, because of the paperwork, because of the context of not only the Italian national regulation, but the EU regulation, right? Italy inherit a set of rules from the EU, European nation, right? For the European Union. So it's a little bit more tricky there. A little bit more tricky. However, when you do import goods from China, in this case, you buy the service of a freight forwarder, freight forwarder agent. I'm repeating 3,000 times so that we can Google freight forwarding agent, what kind of service to provide. So what's the kind of service they provide? They have somebody in the country where you're importing the goods, in this case, China, we're talking, that get in touch with the supplier. Then they take the item from the manufacturer into the boat. Then from the boat, from the ship that is sailing from China, they arrange everything in the container, they bring the goods to your country of destination. And then when they arrive in Australia, they unload the goods in your warehouse. That's their service. As a part of this service, they are the expert when it comes to dealing with the customs. They are actually the entity that deal with the customs. That's all they do. That's what they do. And that's true in Italy as in Australia. They are the one that understand about all the law and regulation and requirement. They are the one that submit the paperwork to the customs. You just pay them a fee. You just pay them a service that is included already in the freight. This is the freight, right? The freight service is the moving of the item, but also what I just described, submission of the appropriate documentation to the customs. Of course, they might ask you, based on your country legislation, you need to provide also this document. And then what you go to the supplier and you say, we need this document to be CE compliant, to be ISO 2007 compliant. Do you have it? Of course we have it. We are a Chinese manufacturer that is exporting everywhere in the world. If we don't have this piece of documentation, it's not only that we can't sell it to you, but we wouldn't be able to sell it anywhere in Europe because we are not stupid. We did the manufacture process so that we are compliant. They give you the piece of paper and you give it to them, to the freight forward agent, and they submit it to the customs. But in 90% of the case, this is a process transparent to you. They do it by themselves.
And it's probably like, yeah, no, I was just processing because I was listening to you, and I was thinking, because I wanted to do research about this stuff, and I didn't know about this entity that actually exists there. That's all your hard work for the custom. And another thing I was thinking was like, so, I heard you talking about warehouse. So
Yeah.
I was thinking like, okay, so you need a logistic, you need a warehouse, you need somewhere where to stock the product. You need somehow, like, do you do it yourself? Like you do like a garage, like I don't know, Google or stuff. Can you actually utilize services that do this for you?
This is a good question as well, and I want to take the time to answer this question with a general analogy. I think it is going to be enough to wrap up our first conversation, and I hope that there is some value in what I'm saying, that people are not only taking the informations out of this conversation, but also the mindset. This is what really, in my opinion, makes all the difference. Let's talk about what you just told me. Do you need the warehouse? Can you get a 3PL, or can you do it on your home? There is no right or wrong answer. There is not only one approach. There's only one thing: hard work, putting your skin in the game, and learning, trying to get all the information that you can, but then take some action. Sometimes you make some small mistake, sometimes you get it right. When you make small mistake, try to make sure that what you are trying to implement, the stakes are not too big, so that even if you make mistakes, you don't burn yourself, because making mistake and failing, it's part of the process. So rather than investing $20,000 all at once. Start with $20 and test the proof of concept. Rather than renting a $15,000 warehouse, try to start from your own garage at the beginning. So you can do three things. You can start from your own garage. You can use the service of a third-party logistic company, which is a warehouse that does the order fulfillment for you. In the case of Amazon, it's called FBA, but this is what people don't know. There are a lot of other 3PL companies that you can use to run your business, to be designed to be independent from Amazon. And I think that's a key factor. And then you can rent your own warehouse. Those ones are the three options that you have, right? Now, when you start, you need to start exposing yourself to the minimum level of risk. So absolutely, start from your garage and then grow, make some money, get some lesson, lose some money, make even more lesson when you lose. And then once you outgrow your garage, then go to a 3PL and grow, learn, make some mistakes. And then you will be able to do a study of feasibility to understand the financial benefit of running your own warehouse. And that's when you become much bigger. Just to give you a point of reference and make the difference between who's talking general stuff and who's really made it on their own skin. I've been running the business from my garage for about 6 to 9 months. That's how you start, 6 to 9 months, your own warehouse or your own garage. Then I've moved into a 3PL, third-party logistic company. There are plenty even in Italy. Nowadays, e-commerce is very popular, so everybody is running their own logistics center. You'll find it if you Google it anywhere. Then you need to choose it properly, location, in the right location, the right whatever. There are a lot of benefits of doing it. I don't want to go too much deep. That's all another conversation. Now, after 3 years of using a third-party logistic company, and many times where I was tempted of moving to my own warehouse facility, now I'm in the market of commercial real estate to actually make that move. So this is 4 years in running a business. And this is the standard. So it is not something that you do at the beginning. When I study my competitors and this history of their evolution, I see this is something that you do at the 4 years mark. And this is also why studying competition is something so important. Don't get overwhelmed. Or should I go to a 3PL? No, just see what they were doing when before. You can't compare yourself with a monster, with somebody super big now, but see what they were doing when they were at your level, like 4 years prior, 3 years prior, 10 years ago, when they were comparable to your size. Those ones are the mindset tricks and the experience that I want to share with my friends around the world and the people that are interested in trying to emulate my journey. Ciccio, what do you think? Did we record enough for today, or?
I think so. We covered I think the main topic.
There are a lot of other stuff. Is there some, you have one more last question you want to ask me before we wrap up? And then I have one question to ask you, so be careful. This is your last shot.
You go for your one.
what I'm trying to do with this channel is to inspire people to take action and to see that it's not that scary, to see that if I've done it, you can do it. And to show that, look, if you need an advice, if you need a point of reference, you can ask somebody that has got as an only interest the desire to help others. And this is the genuine truth. I know that one day I'm going to die, and I hope that I can contribute to others with the blessing that I've received. That's my only drive when I do those kind of recording, those kind of stuff. So inspiring action, it's my quest. And it couldn't start with the person I have in front right now, which is you. So my question would be, would you agree to come back in a format like this where we can record maybe in 30 days time and get a little bit more deeper in what has been your experience and maybe the implementation of some of the feedback, of some of the advices, of some of the things that I've shared during those videos. I don't know if you're gonna do some more research on freight forwarding and understand how it works, or start to sell some stuff secondhand from your... If you could just come back in 30 days and say, Val, out of that conversation that we had 1 month ago, this is what I've done. And now that I've grown a little bit, those ones are the new challenge that I see that 30 days ago, I didn't even know existed. Can you do that?
Absolutely, yeah. Of course.
I'm gonna take your words. We got 30 days of time, and you're gonna tell us how your journey is going. And the hope is that when you're gonna get to the next level, you're gonna have a completely different set of questions. I would like to create this sense of community so that I can help more, and I don't remain just on a superficial level, just about the basics, right? There is so much more that needs to be learned and needs to be discussed. Obviously, we can do it all at once. And I want to share it because the other side is amazing. Like being able to be in Thailand and don't have your boss, be your own boss, don't have anybody to report to, implement your idea. It's a dream come true. And I want my friends and the people that are around me, and in general, all the people that are willing to put the work to be able to obtain the same that I have.
That's amazing. I mean, I feel I'm happy about this because I know what you're saying is actually what you believe. So we'll see in 30 days then. What day?
13th of April. Ciccio, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I appreciate your time a lot, and also your willingness to expose your face and your to join me in this journey. I hope that can be of inspiration for other people to come here and talk to me and ask me questions. You have been the first. So whether my journey of inspiring Ida is going to be successful or not, you will always be the first guest that I had on this kind of show, and I will never forget that. Thank you so much, my friend. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, bro. Sure.
Ciao.